Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews. It's your hosts Ian and Gary.
Hello.
And today we're joined by Hannah. And today we're going to review 2012 movie Byzantium by director Neil Jordan, who for me I had an introduction to at a very early age with the film The Company of Wolves, and straight away I was kind of confused and disorientated with his style of filmmaking because it's almost exactly like a fairy tale, but with an adult spin on it that's very dark and very edgy and very gothic. He also made films like The Crying Game, which are very thought-provoking movies that deal with some real kind of world issues, especially to do with gender. He also made one of my absolute classic movies, which is Interview with a Vampire, which is just a beautiful gothic romantic drama with vampires in it. And now, just recently, he's released Byzantium, which is his return to the vampire genre. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis for it?
Well, the story follows two women, Cara and Ella, who are on the run. And we don't exactly know from the beginning why they're on the run, but they have a dark history. They end up in the town of Blackpool and end up procuring a building called the Byzantium Hotel, which they turn into a whorehouse. Some strange men start to follow them, and we start to realize that Cara and Ella may not be human or living anymore. I fucking love this movie. I only watched it for this review, and like I said, a bit of a Neil Jordan fan. Company of Wolves is absolutely brilliant. Interview with Vampires, brilliant. I'm actually a big fan of High Spirits with Peter O'Toole and Steve Guttenberg as well. And I was unsure about Byzantium. I knew it was a vampire movie, but wasn't entirely sure how that would work in a present day setting, But as the story unfolds, you just get this really dark history surrounding these two girls, what happened to them 200 years in the past. And then you have this whole new way of becoming a vampire, which I thought was just an absolutely brilliant idea. They take away the traditional, vampire bites you, turns you, you die and then you come back to life and that's you for 100 years. It's such a brilliant idea Neil Jordan came up with. The two main actresses playing Cara and Ella are just absolutely amazing.
This is the end. Of what? Of time?
The acting quality in this film is sublime. They really portray their characters, and many scenes of the film as well, you get a feel for the age that they're playing as well. You'd imagine that they're over 200 years old, and that the experiences that they've gone through are kind of accumulated and coming through, and the things that they're saying and doing with these mortals around them. They can be very playful. You almost get a sense of the Lost Boys' playfulness, especially with Clara. She kind of has a flamboyance about her, and she has a very natural way of just controlling the environment or the surroundings of the people that are in her presence.
She's had a lot of practice, hasn't she, over 200 years, and you can see from the outset that she's very adept at manipulating men in particular. In this scene we see her when she meets the guy that owns the hotel, and she's got him wrapped around her little finger straight away. So a lot of practice, and I think Gemma Arterton portrays that character particularly well in this film. It's a really, really great piece of acting from her.
It's nice. Yeah, it's lovely.
It's a bit of a state, like I said, but I wasn't expecting company.
I wasn't actually aware of her until watching this film, and then it was a case of, who is this actress? She is absolutely fantastic. She really just fills the scenery. She's you just want to keep your eyes on her. She's so captivating as well with the power and the presence that she commands.
You can say it, she's hot, you can say it, it's fine.
Yeah, and she's damn hot.
Close your eyes.
She was in the Prince of Persia when I first came across her, really. She was playing the queen of the city in Prince of Persia, and she was a very different look for her. She's naturally quite pale, I think, with dark hair. She was very tanned up with kind of long, darkish brown hair, and she just looked fantastic in that as well. And again, fantastically flexible actress in terms of the parts that she plays.
The film kind of tonally shifts. For the first part of the movie, we're kind of exploring these characters in the present day. But as the film goes on, we start to get more flashbacks to the point where they were alive, and you sort of see how they were kind of forced into this world, and you also see how she gets ill, and then how the transformation. You actually see where the vampire lore would begin, as you were saying, how it's not the traditional transformation where it's more visually explored, where they go into this small kind of hut in the middle of on a cliffside, and there's bats flying everywhere, and there's rivers and fountains of blood, and it's just very visually stunning to watch.
That's the amazing part of the film, when you see Clara's character having tricked the captain and taken his map to get to this secret island where the cave is hidden, the cave that you enter and you become an immortal. There's this sequence that happens, this kind of ritual where the blood starts to pour down the mountainside, and there's this one particular piece that I always remember that's very visually arresting, where Clara's bathing in the blood fountain that's coming down over. Of course, the lads like that scene. It's very kind of visually arresting in many ways, but it's in terms of the cinematography and the way it's done as well. It's also beautiful. Yeah,
the visuals in this film are just astounding. I mean, you start the film in that dark, gringy little city with the tower block, which you kind of think wouldn't look any different on Shameless. But then you see them wandering the fields, and you just have these wide shots of them just walking, and then you see them sleeping in the field. And then I just love the way that without much of a change, you have the past footage, the memories of Ella, thrust on top of the present day. You see this line of orphans walking along the beach, and Ella is part of the orphans, but at the same time stood on the beach watching them. And I just love the way that they didn't have to make like a $1,000 set to show that. They could just take an empty part of the beach and just film one sequence. It was fabulous done. I want to throw out to Johnny Lee Miller in this film. I'm a bit of a big Johnny Lee Miller fan, and when I saw his name in the credits, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what kind of character he portrays. And he is a dick in this fucking movie.
He's an absolute scumbag in this film.
He's an asshole, but he comes across so brilliantly that you kind of understand where Cara and Ella have come from, because obviously he's had a massive influence in their lives. He's forced them into positions.
It's that one line, isn't it? It's a line that makes every woman cringe, where he goes, "Welcome to your profession, whore," and flicks a coin at them. And every woman watching that film at that time wants to just kill him.
We shall return
to see what you have learnt.
He betrays his friends. He destroys the lives of young girls. But the funny thing is, he's a main integral part of the story, but actually he's not in the rest of the film. You spoilers. You get 3/4 of the way through and you find out what happened to him. But I was always waiting for him to come back. I was always waiting for him to appear. Just like Lestat from Interview. I just expected him to be sat at a piano just playing like, you fucking killed me, but I'm back.
The impact he had in the small part of the film that he was in, that he had on Clara, was also impacted on the audience throughout the rest of the film, which is why that feeling is there.
Yeah, I also love the love story between Ella and Frank.
Frank.
I must say, it's widely known I'm not a massive Twilight fan, but I was amazed at how they could make this love story. Frank to me was kind of the Bella character from Twilight, and Ella was Robert Pattinson's fucking vampire douchebag. and the way the two of them come together, and obviously Frank is wanting to be like Ella. He wants to be with her forever. He's madly in love with her, and she's always keeping him at arm's length because she doesn't want to darken his spirit, I suppose. But it was told so much better than the three films of Twilight. Just the love story between a vampire and a mortal. and how the vampire doesn't want to be lonely forever, but then doesn't want to drag a poor innocent person into their life.
Why do you kill?
I never. People have to consent. They have to want.
Want death?
It has to be an act
Who the
of...
fuck wants death?
Well, sometimes it releases people.
So you're moral.
No. I'm ruthless.
Was another part of the film that I also really liked, which is layered into that, and that is the fact that Ella, as a vampire, she doesn't just feed off anybody. She doesn't. She actually hunts for what you can call them her victims, but she is like an angel that gives that kind of release to the elderly or those that are or lonely or suffering or ready to move on, and they almost greet her as an angel.
Yeah.
And she apologizes to them, but she gives them a prayer and takes them on.
Yeah, she has a moral conscience, definitely, doesn't she?
She has a very pure moral conscience in the way she does this, and this is also coming from the fact that she also has not had any training into her existence. She is already against the vampire law. Her very existence is because she was made outside of the Brotherhood of Vampires. But what was also interesting about the film's approach to dealing with death is the fact that the characters that are dying will actually seek out the vampire curse as a way of sustaining their own lives.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that happens a couple of times in the film, and then when Ella is dealing with the fact that she is immortal and her friend has been dying of leukemia this whole time, is the fact as to whether she would turn him to cure him of that, or whether she's falling in love with him, or whether she's there just to release him, just like she does with the elderly. Even though she's been doing this for 200 years, it's still fresh experiences for her, even though she explains them as being a burden and something that she can't deal with or doesn't want to deal with anymore, because she is, perpetually trapped in a 16-year-old body.
Yeah.
Forgive me for what I must do.
Centres around the whole idea of it being a secret. I mean, there's massive pressure from Clara on Eleanor, or Ella, her daughter, to keep this secret, because Clara, of course, knows that this Brotherhood of Vampires know that Clara exists, and they now know that Eleanor exists. But Eleanor doesn't know. Eleanor doesn't know about the Brotherhood, and Clara has to protect her from that whole kind of scenario. That's why she moves them from place to place. And of course, Eleanor really resents her for that, but she has no idea of the danger that she's actually in. So the whole secret, keeping the vampire apart. Well, you said that the word vampire isn't used very much in this film. It's more the term immortal, but it's kept a big secret from Eleanor herself, so that she doesn't reveal anything to people to put them in danger. Also.
I do love the brotherhood aspect. It's not very. It's a thing that's not very looked upon in other vampire movies, where it's turned. The vampires have turned from these night stalking creatures to a secret society layered within human society and hiding out. A lot. You see it in Blade, but they're fucking
Twilight.
walking around in Twilight.
Underworld.
Underworld. But in this film, it was so much put across to you so much better. You've just got these guys, stood in the background, and people are looking at them like, who are these people? We don't know who they are, and they appear and they give you what you think you want, and then they disappear. But then they're saying to you, look, these are the laws that you must follow if you want to be one of us. If not, we're going to come over and fucking cut your head off.
I like the way that she replies that, okay, I'm not a part of your brotherhood and she is to be exiled, but it's the fact that she has her own moral code instantly. When she has that power, she instantly knows she's going to use it to curb the morality of men, which is her kind of retribution for the way she's been treated, which, it is absolutely fantastic, and it's just done in such a short, sweet scene as well.
Yeah.
There is perhaps a few issues of pacing with the film, because the film does flashback, and then sometimes within one scene it will flashback to a flashback within a flashback, and it kind of ruins the pacing, because sometimes when it comes to the present day, it gets very depressing. A lot of the characters are depressed. They're very angry with each other. It deals with a lot of tough issues as well. especially when you're dealing with her paternal protective nature of her daughter, and then you get more flashbacks that will help reinforce that. But it's the fact that you have to have the whole film as an experience in order to enjoy everything that you've seen, because the pacing is just a little bit off, and that's perhaps due to the 2-hour running time. I think the film could have been condensed just a little bit more, but at the same time it kind of feels like then you're taking colours away from a painting. This film is a beautiful piece of art. The cinematography from the beginning to the end is flawless. I almost felt halfway through the film that if I were to take out the visuals and the music, the film would still tell the story perfectly. It's really very good.
The middle of the film, I think for me it did dip slightly because there were an awful lot of flashbacks, but I think the flashbacks I needed in order to kind of give us that background on the two characters, which was great. My favourite character I think in this film was actually, besides obviously Gemma Arterton's character, because as a woman you watch this and go, yes, you kill that fairground junkie. She's brilliant, she's amazing, and the fact that the way they kill is with the fingernail, which is great. There's no biting. That actually really struck me in this film. There's no biting, because sometimes, I mean, a lot of vampire fans will dislike that because you want to get bitten. Obviously, a vampire film, you have to bite, don't you? Surely?
It's part of that kind of romantic embrace of a vampire that is kind of now become watered down, where it had just became super violent or super angry, and yet still in the teen movies it can still kind of be that romantic embrace. But for this film, it's the thumbnail. It's the thumbnail. It's kind of the way it's done. It still can be quite aggressive, I think, because the way that Gemma Arterton's character Clara kills the school teacher when he comes in is a very quick punch to the neck, and it looks like she's punched him. Then you realise she's actually dug this super sharp thumbnail in, and then of course the blood pours out, and then they feed on that, which is a lot of vampire fans I think would probably dislike that, but I think it's quite a novel way of killing someone. Quite interesting.
Give my regards to your mother. Welcome to a slow death. Welcome.
Favorite scene, Iain?
My favorite scene. I actually have two.
Just two.
Just two. The whole film for me is just an experience. You know, there are many twists on the vampire lore, but it's been done. You know, the twists have been happening for the last 20 years, so you're just gonna go with this. But it was the scene. It completely takes out. It's two British actors. The names escape me, but it's the teacher turns up at the Byzantium hotel to confront Ella and her mum, and he comes across the owner guy, and the owner comes out like just in his boxer shorts, wrapping a housecoat around him, and it just shows how brilliant theatrical British actors can be, where they fully believe in their characters, and the teacher is just like looking around at all these prostitutes, and the owner knows that it's just not the right environment, but he's like, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And the two of them just have this discussion, and then the teacher goes off. And for that one scene, it took me away that this was a violent, visual, blood-filled movie, but just showed me pure acting. That is definitely my favourite scene.
The thing is, Noel, Eleanor's written a story, and in her story she says that she lives with vampires. So can you please pass this letter on and tell her that if I don't hear from her today, then I'll be in touch with social services and the police.
Favourite scene, Hannah?
Oh, there are so many. I like the girl power scenes, obviously, where she kills the man that's pimping out all the girls, and he's a really like scumbag guy. She kills him on the beach. That's obviously a pretty good scene for me. But I think my favourite scene was watching Eleanor's reaction when Frank has a little accident on his bike, and he gets cut, and of course because he's got leukemia his blood's very thin, and he just starts spilling blood everywhere, and she has to wrap her arm around him. Being a vampire, this is probably not an easy thing for her, and try and get him home. And he's such a lovely character, you immediately warm to him, and the fact that she's resisting from kind of licking his arm is quite a good thing. You're willing her on, please don't do it. And then when he walks away, finally they get into hospital, and then you look at this bloody tissue on the floor and you think, oh, she's going to, isn't she? And she does. She turns around, picks up the tissue and starts sucking on the tissue. And I think, although it's meant as quite a serious scene, for me that it was a bit of comedy relief. I thought, oh, she's just sucking on a bloody tissue. And it's kind of, in a way though, because of their relationship, it's quite sweet, and it means she's not gonna. But then you do think, is she gonna bite him now? She's got a taste for it, so it brings up more kind of questions. And
it's also the fact that she's also repressed her hunger.
Yeah.
For kills like that as
She
well,
has, yeah.
where she's much more sophisticated in the way she's doing it. So that hunger, just seeing the raw blood everywhere, it just kind of tempted her, and it was a very fascinating scene to watch.
It was. That's an awesome scene. I think the only other scene that I liked as much, purely for the fun factor, was when we open up with Clara and she's doing that sexy dance on the guy, and this guy is obviously a real pervy scumbag. And mind you, she's not wearing very much, so it's kind of comes with the territory, I suppose. But he grabs her, tries to grab hold of her, and she turns around and she bites his nose. And just for me, I'm like, yes! She looks stunning in that. I mean, I was actually looking at underwear and going, that's really nice underwear as well. So as a woman, I was quite distracted by that. I'm sure the boys have got an ulterior agenda when they watch that scene. But for me, it was the girl power moment of her breaking the scumbag's nose. Really liked it.
You bastard! Did you see that? He fucking attacked me! What's she done?
Been his fucking nose.
Yeah, well, he deserved it.
Yeah. My favourite scene was with Ella. She has been called into the school because through one of her lessons she had to write a story about herself, and the gist of it was that it had to be a true story, her true self. I am, I think was the essay title. Eleanor Webb. So the story has kind of gone around to these teachers, and they've called her in to try and evaluate the psychological kind of damage that might have been done to this child, whether she's been mistreated by her mother or by her home environment.
Yeah.
And she's kind of quizzing her, and she's kind of giving these straight answers without any thought to the truth of the story. And you kind of see the teacher's reactions kind of twinging, like, she cannot possibly be this old, it can't be real.
Yeah.
And then when she starts to tell her that perhaps in 40 years' time, when she walks past her house and she's trimming the roses, when she looks exactly the same. But the way she delivers those lines, you watch her transition 200 years in just one sentence, and the actress just delivers those lines so straight, so calculated, and so precise that the teacher kind of just twitches a little bit at the acknowledgement that this is actually real. Yeah. And it was just so perfectly well acted. It was fantastic. It really was. That was my most memorable scene in the film, bar the fantastic over-the-top action sequences that do follow towards the end of the film. There are some fantastic twists towards the end of the film as well. It's so beautifully acted. It's a fairy tale world, drawn out and stretched out. If you're a fan of Interview with a Vampire or The Company of Wolves, you have to check this film out as well. If you're perhaps not too interested in art house vampire films, then might not be much here for you. You might find it a bit dull, a bit repressive and depressing. But other than that, I think this is a truly fantastic film, and I cannot recommend this film enough.
I definitely recommend this film, especially to any vampire film fans out there. You know, if you've gotten to this far, you have to see Byzantium. At the same time, for people who aren't fans of vampire movies, you know, if you're a guy, you have to fucking see this film. Gemma Arterton, it's amazing. She is absolutely,
the fact that her boob pops out at one point.
Spoilers.
But watch it now.
At the same time, you know, it's for girls as well. There is a beautiful love story in it. You know, the girl empowering with Gemma Arterton.
We like the blood and gore too, you know.
Yeah, the blood and gore is astounding. I definitely recommend this film.
I mean, I would recommend this film. It took me a while to like this film. It took me a while to decide whether I absolutely loved this film or whether I hated it, because like you say at the beginning, when you watch it, it's very depressing and you think, this ain't no Lost Boys. There's no comedy in this. But at the same time, if you like Interview with a Vampire and you like the characters and exploring the depths of the characters, and of course you've got Saoirse Ronan, you've got Gemma Arterton, you've got amazing actresses in this film. Whether you're male or female, regardless, I think you'll enjoy this film.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.